The Invictus Games are dead, and Harry and Meghan killed them. Yes, oh yes. Looking through the Invictus coverage this week, it's insane how bad it is, especially regarding Meghan Markle's appearance. She is completely stealing the show. Her fashion displays, her PDA with Harry, it's insanely bad. And I have no doubt at this point, the writing's on the wall for the Invictus Games. It's done. It's gonna die a slow and painful death. Now, while I know they're trying to promote it and going, oh, so many people are interested, so much money is coming in, this is so exciting. But I don't think that's the case. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the Invictus Games is technically losing money for whatever host city is there. And I did some interesting digging because I was actually at the Invictus Games in 2016 and I compared some of the finals between when I watched sitting volleyball then and now. And I have some interesting insights I think you'll want to hear. But overall, looking at the Invictus Games, I think I was 100% correct. I did a video called, Is the Invictus Games Doomed? Or I think, is Meghan going to doom the Invictus Games? And this week proved that yes, I was 100% correct. And Harry letting Meghan destroy this thing, this baby, this thing he has created is not only pathetic, but just mind-boggling. How did it get so bad? And is the Invictus Games salvageable? I'm going to go into some of the details of what I think on this topic and share some great insights with you as well. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network, my name is Brittany and I provide you all compelling royal commentary about the latest news, sometimes a little bit of the drama going on behind the scenes. So if you are interested in that, feel free to hit that subscribe button. And I'm going to be working on a video tomorrow recapping the entire Swedish Golden Jubilee. I was there, I had press credentials the whole time, and it was just so fun to be there. I was at the Jubilee concert earlier today. I was within 20 feet of the royal family for that whole time. I got a lot of pictures. I think the card said like 6,000. And I also went to the changing of the guards, which was super exciting. I saw some of the guests arriving for the Jubilee Chapel. They called the Te Deum. And I also was there for the Drottningham Palace concert because there was also one there too. And so I just got a ton of coverage. It's the first royal event that I've covered as a member of the press. Hold on, let me show you something. It says press. King Carl Gustaf's Golden Jubilee. I will keep this. This is actually not my official press pass. This is just the one I got for today. I actually have one that has my name on it and just a whole bunch of other details about what, where I can and cannot be. And so that was super exciting. I got to go through security. I felt a bit like Chris Jackson. It was awesome. And I just can't wait to share some of that with you guys, but I want to make sure I go through and find everything I have because I took so many pictures. I have video. I just have a ton of material to get through, and I just want to make sure I get it all because I don't know how many people will be interested in that, and I just want to make sure that I'm not doing like 12 videos because I just don't know if it'll have as much legs as some of the stuff with the Brits do. Although I love the Swedes, guys. The Swedes are awesome. If you have not followed the Swedish royal family, you really should. They are very cool, very relaxed. Scandinavian countries, I feel like they're always just so effortlessly chic and cool and just have a ton of fun together because they're all very close. So Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, they are all very close. Their families are very closely related. They share a ton of history, so it's just great to see all these families come together because other of the Nordic nation royals, yes, they did call it the Nordic royals. Some people were like, why are you calling them that? We say Scandinavia. Sorry guys, on the official press release, it did say Nordic. And so they were there as well, which was super exciting. I saw some of the boats because they flew in, I guess, most of them, but then they also stayed on their boats, which was kind of cool. So just lots of exciting things here going on in Sweden. So I can't wait to share with you guys more about that. And on Tuesday, I will be covering the Prince's Day in the Netherlands. So they have a big ceremony where the king reads a speech and then they go to the palace and have a balcony thing. And I applied for credentials and I got them for part of it. And so I'll have to figure out exactly where I am because I'm not entirely sure because everything was in Dutch. The Dutch royals, if you want Americans or English speakers to cover your events, put the instructions sometimes in English. It'll help. I know. Crazy idea, but yes, it does. Because the Swedes are very good about putting everything in English. But I understand this was more of an international event. Anyways, though, guys, it was amazing. It was a ton of fun. And yes, I can't wait to share with you more. But like I said, Need to go through the pictures. I think I have several thousand pictures because I keep my camera on burst mode, but I got some great stuff, so I can't wait to share it with you guys. But let's get back to Harry and Meghan, because yes, some of the Sussex stands thought I was going to go over and cover the Invictus Games and like stalk Harry and Meghan, because I happened to be in Germany a couple of days before they arrived in Munich, nowhere near Dusseldorf. But anyways, in the minds of Sussex stands, I guess the world is flat, I don't know, or things are closer than they appear. Either way, I was never planning on going there. And I have a little bit of scuttlebutt you might find interesting as well, because I was with all the photographers, Getty, AP, Reuters, like so many different professional photographer agencies. And did I manage to hold my own? Probably not, but I attempted. I got some great pictures, some of them not so much. I'm still figuring out the camera. Anyways, going on. So what did they say, which was kind of interesting, is that the Invictus Games, he was offered either this or the Invictus Games. So he was either offered to go to Sweden or he could go to Dusseldorf. And I heard Dusseldorf coming up a lot amongst the photographers. They were talking about it quite a bit. And most of it was in a foreign language, so I'm so sorry I could not hear all of it. But one thing I found really interesting is that some guy was saying, well, there was a lot of control about the Invictus Games. And I thought, that's sort of interesting. And I wondered what control he meant. I didn't get a chance to ask because I didn't want to be too unobtrusive because they have no clue who I am. But I thought it was very interesting that he mentioned this control issue, because looking at the videos and everything, you couldn't help but notice that the crowd sizes are really, really small. And I think that's an issue that's really plaguing the Invictus Games. And Meghan, I think, is a huge part of that, and so is Harry. The Invictus Games, if you look at it like the initial video of Harry doing the closing ceremony in 2014, there was a huge crowd. People were so excited. He got to read off a note from his grandmother. It was just a very, very exciting moment, an exciting event. People were thrilled to be there and so excited. I think the same feeling was felt in 2016 in Orlando, of course, and then you have 2017 in Toronto. And when that happened, I think things started to shift within the Invictus Games, and I think it started going in a more negative direction. And I think the ship hasn't righted, and I think the ship is slowly starting to sink. You couldn't help but notice that the crowd sizes are actually really, really small. And I compared that to what I saw in sitting volleyball in 2016. So I was there in the stadium. We went to the semifinals, and then we went to the finals. And I was looking at the pictures, and I will say this is not a holistic approach, because I was looking only at one side of the stadium. And you have to understand that there was the side where family members and participants in the games were at, which I could see, and then our side, the public side. So I can't say 100% that the public side, the people who had to buy tickets, that it was like completely packed window to window. But looking at it again, I was thinking the stadium was huge and it was packed and everything. But then when I looked at it, I realized, hey, the crowd size, it's about the same, maybe perhaps a bit smaller. There's just not that many people there. And why does this matter when it comes to Harry and Meghan? Well, number one, if the game started in 2014 and it's only almost celebrating its 10th year in 2024, every year, technically, the crowd sizes should grow in response to the growing interest in the games, the growing preparation, and all these sorts of things. But when I was looking at my pictures, I realized, well, it just doesn't seem like it's grown that much, or if anything, it's contracted slightly. This is a huge, massive, massive problem for Harry and Meghan. And what's interesting that initially came to mind to me when I realized this is that Meghan Markle, despite marrying Harry, has not increased attendance in the Invictus Games. She hasn't. Except for a small group of her uber fans, I don't think anybody's attending these games. And that's going to be a massive problem in the future. And I was looking at the financial reports for the Invictus Games, and I saw that the revenue went up, and I think the money transferring through the Invictus Games is per year is between like $1 million and $2 million, which is not enough to put on the games they are. So all of this money that's funding the Invictus Games is coming from somewhere, but it's not the Invictus Games Foundation. The Invictus Games Foundation is doing part of it, but I think the vast majority of the time they're relying on the city that's sponsoring it and their other corporate sponsors to put it on and massively finance it. That's going to end at some point. I thought it was interesting. I was looking through trying to find things and I saw the archery thing. And Amazon is one of the corporate sponsors of the event. And it had Amazon on things at the archery thing. And I realized looking at it, well, yes, because Amazon putting Amazon's logo there is there because they're hoping people who attend the games go and make more Amazon purchases. But if nobody's attending the games, no more people are making Amazon purchases. And because of that, how long is Amazon's sponsorship going to last? I don't think it's going to last much longer. The Invictus Games has already lost Land Rover Jaguar. I think there was a reason for that. Not only did Land Rover Jaguar go, well, it's probably not financially feasible. You have to look at the toxicity of the brand of Harry and Meghan. And we'll get back to that issue because that's the main problem. But looking just at the corporate sponsors, I just don't think they're going to stick around very long because if something's financially viable, if it makes sense, if it's constantly growing, you want to invest in it because it does give them the tax write-off and it does give them an opportunity to kind of show their wares and show their brand. But if it's not making money for them, if it's not turning people who are attending into customers, that corporate line of credit, you could say, is going to end at some point. And I think that's going to happen sooner rather than later for Harry and Meghan here in the Invictus Games. And again, they really only have themselves to blame in this scenario. There's no reason why corporate sponsors should be pulling out of the games. If they're pulling out of the games, there's something wrong because the games should be an easy win. It's soldiers and veterans. It's a game sporting event and people should love it. It should be a massive financial cash cow in a lot of ways because you also have a royal running it. But it's not generating revenue. It's not generating income because when it comes to a game like this, so the Invictus Games Foundation is only managing $1 to $2 million a year. That probably pays for Harry and Meghan's travel, the corporate salaries of the people working for it, some incidentals, and maybe merchandise. Like, it doesn't cover a whole lot. Those games that they're putting on with all the production and everything probably cost tens of millions of dollars. And getting some of the people they have performing probably costs 6 figures, maybe even 7 figures. And the Invictus Games is only going through $1 million to $2 million a year. You know, their concert budget could be taken up by that entire thing. So the Invictus Games is really running on borrowed time in some ways. So how is it generating income? Well, it should be generating income through ticket sales, but can only sell tickets to the closing ceremony and the opening ceremony. Okay, so those are the only things that can guarantee some sort of revenue, but are they covering all the costs? Probably not, because a big chunk of the audience is going to be family members and friends of the Invictus Games participants who shouldn't have to pay for those things. Probably some of them are. And the Invictus Games soldiers themselves, they're taking up the whole bottom rack, and then it's just the stands that are taking up the rest. So you can't be generating quite that much money. The other thing is hotels, concessions, those sorts of things. And yes, I think the broader economic community within these games is probably making some money, but is it Olympics money? Definitely not. So the question becomes, how are these being funded? It was interesting, somebody mentioned this, and forgive me, I haven't gotten a chance to go back and verify it, that Vancouver is funding $30 million into the Invictus Games to host the games. I don't think they're going to recoup that money. And as more cities talk about, well, we put these games on, we couldn't make a dime, and it was this big hassle. Harry and Meghan were a pain in the butt to deal with, and we really just didn't generate that much income. A lot of cities are going to pull out and go, no, why are we doing this? Because yes, you can guarantee with the Olympics, but if you look at the numbers for the Invictus Games, for the live streams, for the recaps and everything, my numbers are higher. I'm only one person and my numbers are higher. And the Invictus Games probably has 100 people working for it, all these people doing editing and live streaming, all these sorts of things, and I still get better numbers than they do. That's a massive, massive problem. And I don't think Harry and Meghan are helping matters either. Because the biggest problem at the end of the day, the problem that is not going away, and we saw it get just insanely, insanely bad in these last games, is Prince Harry and especially Meghan Markle. So let's look at Harry first, because I think he's, to a certain extent, the less offensive here, because he is actually a veteran. Now you could talk about how he didn't really serve in combat. He was probably playing video games most of the time. You could say that, and that's probably partly true. But he's actually connected with military service. So he has this connection here. But I think Harry, unfortunately, he's attached too much to these games. And I saw this in the Invictus documentary. I think Harry sees himself as the savior of these games. That he is supposed to go through and help all these people. He's supposed to save them. He's supposed to talk about how many people he killed in Afghanistan and hope it makes him feel better because maybe his number is higher than theirs. Doesn't matter that maybe, you know, they lost their leg in a suicide bomb. It's about Harry's suffering and him telling other people how he suffered. And so he goes through this all thing, I think, with this massive, massive ego and head about how he's quote unquote helping everyone. And yes, he is, but really it should be about the games and not him. He's making it too much about himself. The games are becoming a cult of personality around Harry. And I didn't feel like I saw this as much in 2016. Yes, he was there and it was exciting for everybody when he was at an event, but he sort of sat in the back of the crowd. He didn't really do too much, but now it's become this thing where he is always the center of attention at every event that he goes to. And if he had any heart, if he had any intelligence, he would say, no, don't focus on me at all. I'm not even here. Because if he puts the light on the veterans, if he shines a light on the people competing, he may be able to elevate them instead of trying to elevate himself. Because that's all it felt like, is that this is a giant exercise of ego for Harry. And Meghan's a huge part of that, but we'll get there. So as Harry goes through these games, it becomes more and more, I feel like, of a performance on him. And every time they enter, you see Harry and Meghan enter, it's like a red carpet. There's photographers and this flashing of bulbs and all these things, and it's becoming entirely a show aspect of it. And that is deeply, deeply problematic. So I support veterans. I want the games to continue, but I can't continue it if I don't know what it's about. Is it about satisfying Harry's ego? Is it about helping veterans? Is it about Meghan Markle's fashion show? I don't know what the games are about. And I think Harry, even himself, has lost sight of what the games are about. And because he's lost sight of that, he can't steer the ship anymore. And if he has a whole series of yes men on the board, they're not going to steer the ship either. They're just going to tell him, oh, you're doing great. Everything's fine. Everything's perfect. Even though everything is kind of falling apart, I think. I don't think the public perception of the games is getting any better. In fact, I think it's tanking day after day after day. And especially because of Meghan Markle. Harry's biggest mistake in the Invictus Games is inviting and insisting Meghan Markle is a part of every aspect of it. She doesn't need to be there. She offers nothing. This games were almost obscene with how much she was in the forefront. Starring role. It's so deeply offensive, I feel like, because you're just watching her parade around in short shorts with all her, you know, and I hate to say it, I don't try to criticize other people's body because Lord knows my body isn't great, but her legs are not attractive. I don't understand why she thinks her legs are her best feature. They're really not. She actually looked really pretty in a lot of the pictures. You know, I will be totally honest there, but her legs are not attractive. And so she's like gallivanting around in these legs, and there's just this one picture that I think epitomizes everything that is so wrong with the games right now. And it's this one. It's this one. She's looking coy. She's looking sexy. She's trying to be seductive. And I'm like, these are games where children are here. This is supposed to be a family event. This is not for you to show off yourself. What are you doing? And she did several things like this, keeping the buttons really low on that short dress she wore the first day, you know, having the shorts so she can show off her legs. Because, you know, I think at one point she talked about wanting to, like, actually, what was it? Like, insure her legs. I'm like, honey, there's nothing to insure. They're not that attractive. Please stop. Please stop obsessing about your legs. My legs are terrible. My legs are too big. I have big thighs, big calves. Totally admit that. But, and that's why I don't show them off. And I know that. And I try to show off other things, but I'm like, That's another tangent. But Meghan Markle's obsessive need for attention-seeking behavior. I watched this one video and she sees a photographer, I think, in part, and she sees this girl with this camera and she runs over and she like shoves her and this girl together so they can get this selfie. She is so obsessed with the attention that this is bringing her, because it's not about the veterans anymore. It's about Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle's fashion show. What is Meghan Markle doing? That event too, where she marched with the veterans to pass out the awards. Granted, somebody else did that too. Harry did it later, so it's not like she was the only person doing it. But the outfit, I'm looking at the outfit, and granted, I think the romper and blazer is kind of cute. I think it's a cute outfit. And I know people hate when you say something nice about Meghan Markle, but I want to try to be fair here. I did actually think that was cute. And I did like the other shirt dress she wore. Well, I liked the 2 shirt dresses because I like shirt dresses, but that's just my thing. But when she was walking up there in these flat sandals, I'm like, honey, are you going to the beach? Shopping at Hermes? What are you doing? Because you're not at the Invictus Games. This woman cannot wear a single piece of Invictus Games merchandise. A single piece. She can, of course, promote Hermes, Chanel, Aquazzura, Carolina Herrera, Zara. She can support all these other brands, but she can't support the Invictus Games itself. That's what this screams. When you cannot wear the branded gear, this says you don't support the brand. That's what it says. So why was she there? Why is Meghan Markle there? Well, she's there, number one, because she needs the attention. She needs the attention. And she's had a really bad summer. So this is her attempt to reform herself, and I'm sure she is paying a buttload, like a ton of money for promotional materials, because there's a ton of articles in magazines and everywhere, like Daily Mail and all these stuff about her wardrobe and what she's doing and everything. She's paying up the wazoo for that. Totally 100% paying up the wazoo for that level of attention, because it is all about the attention she can get. She doesn't want to shine a light on somebody else. She wants all the light to come to her, and nobody will invite her to a red carpet. So she has to create her own, and she's using the Invictus Games and the lives of veterans to do that. That's the kind of despicable person Meghan Markle is. She's using veterans and she's using their families to promote herself. The other reason she's there, I think, is to resettle everybody regarding her and Harry's love. The PDA was excessive. It was clingy. It was needy. It was all the things that drive me nuts about Harry and Meghan, because it's so stinking unprofessional to do that. It's so unprofessional to constantly paw at your partner. Yes, you guys are married. Yes, we get that. We're not impressed by your excessive need to touch each other. That doesn't prove your love. To me, it almost came off more as a performance than ever before, because it was just so much. And Harry, at times, yes, he looked happy, but he also looked a lot grumpy with her. And I love this one video where he's literally talking to somebody right next to him, and she's acting like she's part of the conversation. And I don't think she is, because neither one of them are reacting to her. But heaven forbid Harry doesn't have the attention on her. And I think the marriage problems are true. And I'll probably do a whole video on this, because I think the performative aspect of their PDA has reached the level of 11 out of 10. It's gotten really bad. Part of the problem is that things aren't going well behind the scenes. So you have to sell the relationship more. And that's what I feel like we're seeing. We're trying to sell the relationship, the love, more. But we got a lot of good reports, from the Telegraph and other places, talking about how things just were not going well. And remember, they had a really bad summer. They lost their Spotify deal, and I don't care what the Sussex stands say. That's a bad sign for their brand. The Invictus Games documentary flopped hard. They got completely called out about their ridiculous and ludicrous and fake paparazzi chase in Manhattan. Basically, nobody believes them. Like, literally nobody believes them, especially people in Manhattan. Even celebrities. Nobody came out in their defense. Like, literally no one. And then you have all the reports about trouble in their marriage. And this woman has not worn her engagement ring. And I know some people say, well, she took her engagement ring and put it on her pinky ring. No, that's a different diamond in her pinky ring. Because, what does it say about a woman that she's perfectly willing to wear a 3-carat diamond pinky ring, which is totally and completely pretentious, in my opinion. And yet she's not willing to wear her engagement ring. What that tells me is that there's something else going on here. And Meghan Markle is an actress. She's not a good one. But I think she can sell fake love. I think she can sell that. So she's constantly trying to do this. And the third reason Meghan Markle is there is that she's setting up her influencer career again. She's going to influencering She's influencering. So she is there and she's wearing affordable brands, which she did not last year. She's accessorizing with some designer pieces, but last year she wore $65,000 worth of new clothes. This year, I don't know what the total is, but there were a lot fewer designer duds, everything. There were a lot of aspects of her wardrobe that had been worn before. So this is totally and completely different. Like, last year compared to this year is just diametrically opposed in terms of what she wore. And I think that tells us a lot about what's going on behind the scenes with Meghan, because this woman last year wore $65,000 worth of new clothes. She had like a $15,000 necklace that she wore from Cartier. Every aspect of her wardrobe was new, except for maybe a pair of shoes. But this year, there were a lot of repeats, and she's wearing a lot more repeats, and she's wearing a lot more affordable brands. It's not because she wants to. Remember, this is a woman who had a Zara party because she was so excited to get rid of all of her Zara stuff so she can invest in a very expensive wardrobe because she got her roll-on suits. No, she's wearing these affordable pieces so she can merch them, so she can set up her influencer career, because not a lot of people are going to buy the $500 pair of jeans that you wore last year. They're more likely to buy that $30 Zara romper than they are that $500 pair of jeans. So that is what Meghan Markle is setting up. We've seen that she has this Instagram account that's just been sitting there. I have no doubt that's going to be activated probably this fall. I wouldn't be surprised, setting up for the Christmas season and everything. And so just Meghan Markle here is just aggravating at the Invictus Games. And I think she's going to be a huge reason for why they fail, because she has no purpose in being there besides to promote herself. And so if I'm an advertiser and I'm looking at the Invictus Games, I have no clue what it's about anymore, because all the press coverage is about Meghan Markle and her wardrobe. And sure, if I'm Zara, maybe that's helpful, but I'm sure it's probably not in a way, because it's like, well, I want to support the veterans, but are we really supporting Meghan Markle? And the big problem Harry and Meghan have, and I think the big problem for them going forward, is that they're an incredibly toxic brand right now. Not a lot of people like them. And yes, you get the excitement from the crowd at the Invictus Games, but I think a huge aspect of that is because they love the games. They want the games to continue. They don't care as much about Harry and Meghan. It's about the games. And I think Harry and Meghan want the Invictus Games to be about themselves. And because of that, the Invictus Games will fail. It will die a slow and painful death, because Harry and Meghan were too self-obsessed to see the broader good of the Invictus Games and only wanted to enrich themselves. And I just feel so sorry for the veterans and their families that they are stuck with two people who are too selfish to do the right thing and step aside. The Invictus Games cannot continue if it becomes a cult of personality. Talked about this last time too. It's becoming all about Harry and Meghan and Harry's brand and everything like that. And that is a really, really big problem, because if you're smart, you set up a brand and sometimes you sort of let it go. You're over it in a lot of ways, but you're sort of letting it mature on your own. That's actually a future plan for the Braille News Network. Yes, it's a lot about me, but maybe as we grow, I may develop a team so it becomes more about a collective rather than a single person. It's a single person now because I'm the only person here, but hopefully at one point it'll be more people, maybe there'll be a contributor from Spain, from Sweden, from Norway. And so we will have different voices, because the vision of Royal News Network is a lot bigger than just me. Obviously, I drive a lot of it right now, but there's a huge vision behind here that hopefully one day will come into effect. Unfortunately for the Invictus Games though, I don't think there's any vision besides satisfying the egos of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. And unfortunately, it's going to be the veterans who suffer. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know your thoughts about Harry and Meghan and the Invictus Games. I would love to hear, and please tune in for my video on the Swedish royals. I'm planning on doing one about the fashion, the tiaras, and an overcap of everything that went on, because I can't wait to share it with you guys. It was so exciting, so fun and amazing, and I can't wait to share more. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.